So in this video, we're going to talk about how to create basic shapes inside Illustrator. And to start out, I've reset my workspace just to be an Essentials Classic. And over here inside our toolbar, you will see this icon for the rectangle tool. It's about 5 down on our toolbar. And when I hover over, I get that tooltip saying that it's the rectangle tool. Anytime that you see this little caret next to a tool, that means there's more options underneath. And this is one of those things that Illustrator loves to do, is bury their menus to make their interface look a little bit clearer. And so if I right click, you'll see that I have way more tools inside this shape tool inside our toolbar. And to start out, we're going to start out with this rectangle tool. And when you click on it, you'll see that you have a small little crosshair, right? And I'm just going to zoom out. And when you click and drag, it will create what looks like just a blank box. And so I can click and drag, and I can get all of these beautiful squares. Now, one thing you'll notice is it has a white fill and a black stroke. And I know that, because I can see that here, but if I look on the left-hand side over here, the larger white box is the fill, and the smaller stroke, or the box that doesn't have anything in the middle, that is our stroke. And so this helps identify the characteristics of the object that we are making on the screen. And so if I put something off of our canvas on the outside of the artboard, you'll see that it is indeed filled with white. Now, one thing you'll notice is I can't move any of these yet, right? It only gives me the option to click and drag while making these. If I want to be able to move these, I have to go to our arrow tool. And we have two different arrow tools. For right now, I'm just going to talk about the black arrow, the selection tool. This is also the hotkey V. And this is one of those hotkeys you should definitely learn. I'm going to go over the hotkeys as I'm talking and throughout the semester, but you'll have to learn those on your own. So now I can click and reposition these on my canvas. So if I wanted to make a stack of blocks that look like this, I could do that. It allows me to resize them. If I hover over a corner, it'll allow me to rotate. And you'll notice that I have a total free rotation right now. To be able to scale proportionally or click and drag and create a proportional shape, such as a square instead of a rectangle, we can hold down Shift. And so I'm going to come back to my rectangle tool. And if I drag my square and hold down Shift, notice that it gives me a proportional sized object. If I go back to my arrow and I hover and click and drag and hold down Shift around the bounding box, that will also create a proportionally sized object. Now, if I hold down Shift while rotating, it gives me degrees of 45. I'm going to select all of these by clicking and dragging and press delete just to get rid of them. When I create a shape, one thing you'll notice is I have these little areas in the corner. These allow me to round the corners. So if I zoom in, and I'm going to go Control plus, if I click and drag on one of these small dots, we can get a circle from a square. I could do Command Z or Control Z to undo, and you can go back a whole series of steps. I can have a slightly rounded one. And what's nice is if I double click, select my shape, and I click on one once, I can just adjust one of them. So if I wanted to make, like a little shell or something, this would be one way to do it. And I can rotate it like so. Now, when you create shapes, you can also click and hold here, or you can right click and it'll do the same thing. I can go to the Ellipse Tool, and this will give me circles or ellipses. Now, if I want to select this one and this one, I can do that a couple of ways. One, I could draw a selection just around those two, or I can click on one, hold down Shift, and select the second one, select this third one. And I'm pressing delete just to get rid of them. Rotate around. Inside here, we also have the Polygon Tool. Now this, actually by default, yours probably looks like a hexagon. If I hold down Shift, it'll keep those sides straight, but we also have a secret triangle tool inside here, even though it's not labeled as such. The way to get to that is once you've created your shape, or before you've let go of creating your shape, so I'm still holding on to the cursor, I'm still holding on to my left mouse key. If I press the up button, it will increase the amount of corners. If I press the down button, I can get that to go to the least amount of corners that there are inside a polygon, which would be 3. Otherwise, we would get a line, which we also have a tool for. And so I can do that. And I could create, again, a rounded sort of shape. We also have inside here the star tool. And this works in the same way, where if I want to increase the amount of points on the stars, I have not let go of the left mouse key. I can increase the amount of points or decrease them. And again, we have our triangle inside there as well. The last tool inside here is a flare tool. And this is the worst tool inside Illustrator. Don't ever use this. Get it out of your system now. It's incredibly cheesy, and anyone who looks at your design will know that you use the flare tool. So really just don't use this tool. It stinks. So coming back to this, one other thing you can do is instead of clicking and dragging, you can also click and you'll get a dialog box that asks you what size do you want to create. So you can type in specifically, oh yeah, I want a 200 pixel by 200 pixel box, and please create that for me, and we can get that here. If I need to create a perfect, 3-inch by 3-inch box, I can also come over to our transform window right on our side over here, and I can type in 3in, press tab, 3in, and it'll create that for me. The reason that those two were not changing at the same time is there's a little connection button which maintains the width and height. So if I click that and I come back here and I say 5in for inches, 5 inches, and press tab, it automatically adjusts the other side. So if this is checked, that means that they will scale proportionally. Now you may say, okay, cool, like shapes, that's, like I want to be able to draw. I would, really think about, in some ways, we'll be starting out with basic shapes in the beginning of the semester. You can build a lot of complex objects from shapes. So for example, say I wanted to make like a small medicine bottle, for example. I could go to the rounded rectangle tool and I could take this. I could draw my little, rounded area here, and I'm going to zoom in so I'm a little bit closer. And right now I'm holding down spacebar to create the hand tool, which allows me to move the canvas around. So I'm holding down spacebar and clicking and dragging with my mouse. Now I'm going to flip the colors by clicking on this flip button here. This allows me to swap the fill and stroke. I'm going to come back to my button here. And I'm going to space this out. If I do not want a fill or a stroke, there's a little X button here. So on this shape, and actually all of these shapes, I don't want a stroke. So I'm going to click the none. And now I've got my objects here, and I can go in and I could put in a front piece like this. Put this back to defaults, get rid of my stroke. have something like that. Or actually, let's just do one corner, and I'm going to go back to V or the arrow tool. Click this here, have something like that. And I could even come back up, and just to make it a little bit fancier, I'm going to have this be white. Select everything, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. On our right hand side, we have an align tool, which allows us to align objects. And there we go. We've got like a sort of really simple object just from a really, semi-complex object from simple shapes that we're making. We could also do that with things like cars, for example. If I wanted to make a simple car, I can create a shape here. Let's fill this with black. You can also come up to the color window if that is not open. Fill it with black. Switch these so this is actually in the correct way. Get rid of the outline here. And have a small little area. Or actually, let's just do this. Have a small circle. Holding down Shift while increasing the size. One other tool you can use is if I click on a shape and hold down Alt or Option, that allows me to duplicate that shape. And you'll see that I have that double arrow there as well. And I've created a duplicate of that shape. And I'm going to go for, something a little bit boxy. But remember, if I want like little windows here or little diagonals, what I could do is come in, Polygon Tool, make sure I am inside the triangle, press V or the black arrow tool to come back up. Got one there, and I'm going to zoom in so I can see this a little bit closer. And when you select an object, I can press the arrow tools or arrow keys to nudge that a little bit more. And if I select this whole shape, I can shrink it down a little bit. Maybe I don't need to grab the wheel here. Grab this forward there. Let's just move the wheel back. I think that would work. This top one and this. There we go. Now I've got like a simple sort of car. Maybe I need to click on that shape there, bring that down a little bit. Just shrink this down a tiny bit. You could start adding lots of details. It's really up to you about how you want to design your objects. But you can start building up more complex shapes from really simple ones. And it's good to start to see the world like that.